Welcome to my real estate show, ladies and gentlemen. I am so glad that you're joining me today. Today I have a very special guest, my good friend Al Nicoletti is going to be joining us, talking about Homestead as it relates to living here in Florida and the great advantages that provides. Now, there's a lot of things that you may or may not know about Homestead, and that's why I brought Al to share with us his expertise. He's an attorney here in Jacksonville, and I'm super happy to have him on the show. So please help me give Al the warmest welcome. Al, welcome to the show.
How you doing, Angela?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited to talk about Homestead and not all the tax issues in Homestead.
Absolutely. And you're the only person that I know that could make this topic, super fun and dynamic, So I am glad that you're here joining us. Most people tend to think of Homestead as a tax savings vehicle as it relates to real estate here in Florida. And while that is very much the case, it offers a lot of advantages for tax savings. There's a lot of other things that are available and people might not know about Homestead. So as we were chatting earlier this week, you mentioned a few, so I thought that would be a really great topic to bring up to the show. I did want to mention really quickly, if you have any questions for Al, regarding this topic, please be sure to put those comments in the chat box because I can actually bring those up and get those answered for you. So go ahead, give us the insight, the scoop as it relates to Homestead in Florida.
Yeah, Homestead, sweet Homestead. So a lot of people think of Homestead as the tax benefits, and sure, you can. Once you buy a new primary residence, you can begin the steps of filling out the Homestead paperwork to get your tax benefit. Or people think of Homestead as the portability when you're buying a new residence that's the savings transferred to the new residence and all of that stuff that I don't ever get into. But what I found out when doing a lot of probate work is people didn't understand the real side to Homestead, which is creditors and the different things and requirements there are for Homestead to make sure you get the full protection. So what people don't know is that in Florida, we have this Homestead rule, and it's one of the greatest first-time homebuyer arguments to buying a home you can have because it's great asset protection. And a lot of people don't know that a creditor can't come like a credit card loan, a boat loan, can't come on your primary residence and attach a judgment if they file a lawsuit and get one on your primary residence. But there are exceptions to all of this, as usual with law. There's always going to be an exception and stuff. So what you find out is mortgages. That still sticks to your homestead property, right? Federal liens, IRS liens, major improvements to the property. So a roofing lien or a pool lien. If you have a contractor that comes and records that lien and you think they're not going to enforce it or force the sale of your homestead, that you're truly protected on those things, you are not. So while most things protect you, the homestead protects you from those liens, there are things that do not. And understanding the difference of what is homestead versus not homestead. And homestead, it's where you intend to reside, occupy, maintain, pay utilities, pay the taxes, where you reside. Not just about did you apply for the tax exemption, but did you live there? Did you reside there? Did you intend to make it your primary residence?
And I think the key factor here, Al, is that it has to be your primary residence because, especially with Florida being so popular to be a place to have a second home in, these types of benefits that we're talking about only apply to the primary residence, not the second home. Is that correct?
That's correct. These particular asset protection benefits apply to the primary residence, where you intend to reside, where you actually occupy. Those are the definitions, not all the legal jargon, but that's all that's what really decides that that's your homestead property. Now, this is where it gets confusing with creditors. So you're out telling your first-time homebuyer, don't worry, this is going to be your homestead. You are protected, just not from Uncle Sam mortgages and major improvements. This is the other exception. Under Florida's statute and homestead law, it says that there are size requirements. So we kind of talked about this the other day, and you were a little surprised. So if you have a buyer that wants to buy in Jacksonville Beach that's in a municipality, and they want to buy this house that's on 5 acres, they are only protected for homestead up to half an acre. The remaining 4.5 is not protected, and therefore a creditor could attach their interest to the remaining and force the sale of the home to get their money back. You get the half acre though. So there's a rule that you're only homestead protected up to a half acre of property in a municipality. Now, outside a municipality, so out in the middle of nowhere, you have up to 160 acres that you can make protected homestead, which is incredible to have. So you can own that giant farm, that's your primary residence, you live there, that whole acreage, all of that, 160 acres, all protected. So those outside creditors, boat loans, credit card loans, can't attach or force the sale of that primary residence.
Got you. Okay. And that is something that I don't realize, that I don't think a lot of people realize. You know, we all tend to think if it's a homestead property, it's always going to be protected against any creditors. Like you said, any kind of credit card payments that might be required that would not be paid, that we could attach onto the home. But you're mentioning there's exceptions to that. And a lot of it has to do with the municipality, right? Okay.
And the size.
In size?
Yeah, and the size. So whether if it's in a municipality like Jack's Beach, Jack's Beach is a municipality. So you only get the homestead protection up to a half acre. Everything over that is not homestead protected. And so those creditors, if they had a claim or they actually had a judgment, they could levy it against that property to get their money. There's case law about this that says, look, there was a creditor, there was 5 acres, and they forced the sale of the house. The homeowner who thought they had homestead only received the benefit of the half acre when the property was sold. So they got 18% of the amount of the property, and then the creditor got the 81%.
So that was the follow-up question. How would they calculate that? Would it be like a certain percentage of the whole parcel that they would be attaching to that you would claim benefits on?
Right. They actually do a calculation of it. So whatever the remaining acreage is. So I guess you do your survey, you do your you find out how big the property is, and they do a calculation of, okay, they only had the half acre. This is how much the property's worth. It's worth $100,000. So they're only going to get the portion of the half acre of the $100,000 property.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't think a lot of people know that there is actually a limit depending on the municipality and where that property is located.
Right. And I get this question too. I got this at the NEFAR group. Somebody asked, they had a client, a seller that wanted to sell their real estate, and they wanted to buy a new primary residence, but they were worried about selling because they had a creditor. I think it was like a high-end boat loan, card loan, whatever it is, but they had a creditor that was waiting to attach and get that money if they sold the property. But Homestead is very protected in Florida. Homestead says if you sell that primary and you intend to buy a new primary, as long as you take those proceeds and use them to buy the primary within a reasonable amount of time, and you can use indices like putting it in a bank account called Florida Homestead Property bank account to use it for that new primary residence, they can't touch that money.
Interesting. You know, and I don't think that these are things that are advertised, you know, as it relates to Homestead. You know, these are like the special circumstances that someone could possibly find themselves in and, you know, walk into your office with that story, and then that's how these things are revealed. So it's good to know that. Are there any stories as it relates to this topic that you could share with us that might have recently happened that you've come across that could help illustrate this?
So nothing like the bank account or selling the property kind of stories, but something that didn't click until I did a probate in Gainesville. The court wanted to know how big the property was and if it was in a municipality, and in the probate documents. So that's when it dawned on me about all of this creditor stuff, because in probate, remember, if the date of death was within 2 years, creditors, homestead aside, creditors can try to make a claim if they have one, and say, hey, we're owed some money, but they can't attach it to the homestead unless you're the IRS, mortgage, whatever. But more than 2 years, all creditors are barred. They can't make a claim. So the probate that I had was within 1 year, and the court wanted to know the acreage and the municipality. And if it was in a municipality and it was more than half an acre, we have creditor issues where we probably have to wait for the creditor period to go by.
Wow. So they obviously knew what was coming, right? Because they're doing this every day. That's kind of like their business. So, so they obviously knew this was coming. What is the seasoning requirement? You mentioned there's a period of time that they waited for that. Is there a set number of months or days or years that would attach itself to?
So if you're talking about the probate, the number of years in probate, there's a statute that says after date of death, 2 years after date of death, all creditors can't make a claim unless it's a mortgage or something attached to the property. You're not getting rid of the IRS and you're not getting rid of the mortgage. So, but 2 years after date of death, then the credit card companies are out. The boat loan companies are out. But the key distinction in that was the acreage, just like I was going through the acreage and the municipality or unincorporated. So you get 160 acres if you're unincorporated. Probate I just did was unincorporated and I think 1.1 acres. So guess what? You're good. Creditors can't attach to that barring the exceptions, right? So it's kind of cool to realize when you have your buyer that wants to buy the property and they think, oh, I've heard all about Florida Homestead. And you're like, yes, you've heard about Florida Homestead because of taxes, but you probably haven't heard of it because of creditors.
Right.
And everybody's in debt nowadays. So everybody's worried about that stuff. And it's really cool. I know Texas is another state that has some very strict homestead requirements.
Yeah, would you still say, even with all of those requirements, Florida is still one of the most popular states to invest in real estate, either as a primary residence, a second home, or investment, just simply because of how tax-friendly we are here in the state compared to other places?
Right. It's just favored. I think Florida just favors the homeowner and gives them the benefit of the doubt, except if it's something recorded on the property. Something that also comes up, Angela, is people ask if a corporation could be claimed as homestead on the property. Or, you know, if you live in there and you're like the authorized member and the property's titled in the corporation. No, you cannot. There's actual case law that came out 2 years ago that says there could be no homestead for the corporation, even if the person that is on the corporation lives and resides in the property. So you can't claim the homestead exemption for that. And the same thing, I believe, for limited partnerships. If you have a limited partnership and you live in that property, you reside in it, and it's titled as a limited partnership, you cannot claim that house as your primary homestead residence.
And this is typically seen on the in the investor world, right? Where we see properties being bought in the name of an LLC or a certain entity where there isn't, you know, in the name of a person, but there is a person behind it. So what you're saying is once they buy it under an LLC, they're basically forfeiting the benefit of it being claimed as a homestead, even if they live in it. Is that right?
Right. The only tool that I know of right now where you can claim homestead and it's not you as Angela Olmos is the land trust. The land trust statute says that you can claim that property that you title in a land trust as your homestead primary residence.
Interesting. And that's another great topic that I think we should probably make a video about, land trust.
Land trust, yeah. A lot of people find that stuff mysterious. And are there benefits? Are there no benefits? I get that question a lot too. It's interesting.
Yeah, and do you find that it could be a benefit in a sort of a situation and it might not be in a different situation? So a lot of these things you just have to take a big look at the big picture and realize if that makes sense for that to be taken under that name.
Yeah, and my opinion on land trusts has really changed over the last year and a half after researching them and the LLC statute having changed. You get great tax benefits with LLCs versus land trusts. And really the only reason you would want to do a land trust is if you wanted to maintain privacy because you owned and had a lot of assets. Maybe you don't want the tenants to know where you really live, or wholesaling. Sometimes if you want to buy from the bank, they don't allow you to assign the contract, but sometimes you can buy it through a land trust and use the assignability of the beneficiary and maybe able to get around it that way.
Fabulous.
Whole other topic.
Yeah, but all interesting stuff. And I feel like, these are all pieces to the puzzle, right?
Right.
And it depends on what situation you might be in that you would know, okay, well, this is the right piece that comes into this part. So I appreciate you sharing that with us. I want to definitely encourage you to come back and share some more of that wealthy knowledge that you have about all of these kinds of things as it relates to real estate. Certainly Homestead being one of those benefits, but there are some things that you need to know about it too, such as what you just shared with us with the creditor situation. So I appreciate you being here today, Al.
Thank you, Angela. And remember, when you think Homestead, think O.J. Simpson.
How so? Tell us.
He got away with it in South Florida. He had his primary residence, and it was the only thing the Goldmans could not touch.
That's right. And that goes back like some 20-something years ago.
But he got away with it. It was Homestead property.
He got away with a whole lot. And I think a lot of that had to deal with the people that he surrounded himself with.
Right.
And the people that were guiding his interests. So I think it's real important to connect with people that know this area of expertise. From a realtor standpoint, if that's important to you, I'd love to sit down and have a consultation and develop a plan, a strategy to help get you to your goals. And if it relates to having a sit-down appointment with an attorney, I'm sure that Al could help with that too, right?
Yeah, it's one of those asset protection tools. If you're buying a first-time home buyer or buying a primary residence, just knowing those little things really makes a difference. Not so much as the LLC or land trust, but the homestead is its own creature. So knowing those little tools and that question that I had from a realtor about can the seller take that money and apply it to a new property? Yeah, there's case law on that. There's actual case law that says you could do that. And how do you do that? And what are the steps you can take? Sure.
Got it. Okay. Well, very good, Al. If anyone wants to connect with you, what would be the best way to do so?
Best way is my phone number at 904-246-9994 and my email address, which is pretty long that we could probably put in the chat box, but it's the A. Nicoletti, ANICOLETTI at BAPBlaw.com.
You know what? I think I can grab it from my email here. I want to make sure that we share that just in case anyone needs to connect with you, because I know you know quite a bit about all of these topics. And, I think it's important to surround ourselves with people that know this side of the business, just in case you ever need to have a private conversation with you, just to have some sort of consultation as to where, you should be looking at in a situation like this. I think that's important. I'm going to go ahead and create a banner here real quick. And here we go. That should show here. Is that it?
There you go. That's right. Yep. That's the better way of doing it. Instead of me spelling it out,
Yeah, it is one of those that you really have to pay attention to how to spell, because one little letter could make all the difference. So there it is, guys. I appreciate you being here today, friend, as always.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I love being on your show. It's always fun. We go back and forth, and there's a lot to talk about. So real estate's just, there's a lot of things we don't know. There's a lot of things we do know, and this ends up being the world of mysterious gray area. So it's a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you being here. I will look forward to seeing you back again soon, Al.
You too, Angela. Thank you.
All right, guys. So there you have it. That was my good friend, Al Nicoletti. And I'm so glad that you guys were able to tune in today. If you're watching the replay, I'm glad that you're here as well. If there's any questions, please be sure to put them in the comments section. And if I could ever help you with either buying, selling, or investing in real estate, that's what I'm here for. Until next time, please remember to wash your hands, obviously, and remember to take good care of yourself and also be kind to one another. So have a great day, and I'll see you again next Friday at 10 a.m. Take care.